Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to episode 107 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Erdley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group for product businesses. You can find out more at resilientretailclub.com. And if you use the code 10podcast, that's 10podcast, then you can get £10 off your first month. Today, I am joined by my very good friend, Elizabeth Stiles, who has been on the podcast before and always shares so many amazing tips and thoughts about how to show up online, how to be more visible, and ultimately how to sell more in your business. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So good to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you for having me back.
Welcome back. It's wonderful to have you always. And as most of you already know, Elizabeth and I talk not quite every day, nearly every day.
Yeah, I would say. I think it's probably every day.
Probably every day, most of the time.
Yeah.
Message back and forth. So it's always a pleasure to have a chat. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, which is being visible online, which is really your speciality. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think it's like an accidental speciality, but I'll take it all the same.
Do you want to give us your full introduction?
Yeah, well, I am Elizabeth, and Catherine and I met when we were at a really similar point in our businesses, probably like just before we had left, well, just before I left work. And we've got a really similar retail background. So my background is in fashion buying, whereas yours is obviously in merchandising. But what's nice when you think about like why we get on so well is if we were working in a similar, in the same office, we would have sat opposite each other, literally working together on a team. And we've got really like complementary skills. So I worked for Next, Miss Selfridge and Asda on their buying teams across women's and kids. Then I went to work at a supplier, sort of selling into the retailers, which was amazing to see like that 360 view of how the fashion industry works and going out to visit factories, traveling around the world. It all felt very glamorous, and I think in 2018, the supplier set up their own company and it was really hard. I was managing the launch bit, even with a team and with investment and with experience and, plenty of designers, a handful of factories at our fingertips. There was still like so much to do. And I thought, how many other people are trying to launch a fashion or textiles brand without any of this knowledge? So I went into a couple of Facebook groups. One of them is where we met.
That's right.
And said, this is my experience. Is anyone interested in chatting? Got this incredible response. And then thought, well, if I know something that they don't, maybe there is like a service in here, because it just gave me so much confidence to realize that I'd studied A-level textiles. I'd done fashion retail buying. I had done, like 10 years experience in the industry. All my friends were in the industry. So I assumed everything that I knew, everyone else knew as well.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, there is like photographers and estate agents and stylists and mortgage brokers, and like all these random lawyers that also want to start a fashion and textiles brand. And maybe I could help those people. So yeah, 2018, I left and never looked back, really. I help people with their manufacturing mindset and marketing, which I see as like the three key pillars to running a successful business. And I mainly work with sort of purpose-led brands as well, who are trying to do something maybe bigger than who they are as a person or as the product itself. And I kind of stumbled into it all started helping people launch, but then over time people were like, okay, I've launched now, can you help me sell it?
So of course you've got a big sales background too.
Yeah, so when I worked at the supplier, I was selling like maybe 10,000 units a week to people like New Look, Next, River Island, Warehouse, Urban Outfitters. I definitely had a bit of imposter syndrome, being like, I don't know how to sell online. And I was like, oh wait, I can transfer these skills being a sales manager. And obviously it doesn't really matter what it is you're selling or how you're selling it, it's all the same. So yeah, that felt really good to help people like past launching as well.
Yes, for sure. And I think that that's so interesting what you're saying about, well, there's a few things really. I mean, I totally relate to what you're saying about particularly fashion. I think it has got to be one of the most technically challenging businesses to launch because it's such an in-depth, there's so much knowledge really about the fabrication, the construction, the manufacturing. Of the 17 years I was in retail, I mean, 14, 15 years of those was in clothing, and it is an extremely specialized, that when people first think, oh, I'd love to make clothes or I'd love to start a brand, that you say often purpose-led, often to fill a gap that maybe they found in the market, and then yet you run very quickly into these sort of super technical details that you need to know about really to be able to have a genuine conversation with a manufacturer. And that's one of the first pieces of work that you and I did together, you, me and Joe.
Yeah, I was just thinking back to that. The glossary in our workbook.
Yes.
Well, we used to host the workshops, didn't we?
Yeah, in-person workshops for the day, how to launch a successful fashion brand. And that was brilliant because then we were working with Joe, who came from a design background. So then we were covering merchandising, buying and design, which was brilliant. And I think it was so useful to do those workshops in person because all of the questions that you get asked, I think, like you say, it takes a while when you come out of an industry to realise what questions people who aren't in the industry have. You almost have to get asked them until you go, oh, people don't know that, or people do know this, but they aren't familiar with that. And it's so funny to think about that. It was your very first day of being self-employed was our workshop.
I was very hungover that day because I'd had my leaving party the night before and did not plan it properly. But I think I would actually love to do those again. You know, I was thinking back to it, not the other day, but one day.
One day, yeah. I know it kind of all got put on hold with the pandemic, and then both of our businesses, all three of our businesses, changed a lot during the pandemic, doing so much more online. It's funny to think about how we would do it now, but that was really fascinating. But so today we're talking about being visible online because, as you said, so you do manufacturing, mindset and marketing. So, okay, just to start off then, would you say being visible falls somewhere between mindset and marketing?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And do you know what I did the other day? It felt a bit self-indulgent, but I kind of went back and listened to a podcast that I did when I very first left my job.
Yeah. And
I was so focused just on like the facts, it being like, this is what you do, this is how you do it, off you go.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how much mindset work goes into starting a business until I started running my own.
Yes.
And because I think I'd recorded the podcast only like 3 weeks after I left my job or something.
Yeah. So you're like, I know how this works.
Yeah. Like just find a factory and place an order and put 50% deposit down. It was very like matter of fact. And yeah, I think as I've grown, as we've met so many people through workshops, through followers online, DMs and conversations, I've realized like there is so many mindset blocks that stop people from even doing the simplest of like practical tasks because that negative voice in your head just feels so loud sometimes and it can really hold you back. So even though it's all very well me saying about being visible, I do hope that I offer like a bit of the reasons why it feels so hard to do it sometimes as well.
Yeah, totally. It's really fascinating because about a month or so ago, we had a session inside the membership of the Resilient Retail Club, and it was called What Works Now. And we picked out 4 members who'd had successes in their business this year. We wanted to be like super focused on positivity and what people have been doing that had worked. And one of the questions that I kicked off with was asking before people, what's the biggest thing that's made a difference to your business this year? And I was totally expecting it would be like, PR or email marketing. And all 4 of them, totally independently, said mindset. I worked on my mindset. I really worked to overcome imposter syndrome. I really worked to focus. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it was totally not what I was expecting, even having done this now for 4 years. But it's so true, isn't it? It's like, of all the things that you can do in your business, mindset is so key.
Yeah, I actually downloaded an app that a girl in my group coaching recommended called I Am. It sends you messages throughout the day being like, I am nourishing my body. I am looking after myself. I am doing brilliantly at this task in this moment. And it's honestly like the best 20 quid I've ever spent on an app. When it comes up to pay for an app, you're a bit like, oh, I don't want to pay for that. I could get a takeaway or something. And oh my goodness, like it's such a game changer. And I did something similar recently where I messaged a few past clients and said, can I just talk to you and see how you're feeling at the moment? Like I want to know, which I'm going to talk about later actually, like what content you want to see, but I don't want to just whack that question box up. I really want to have a conversation with you. And I said, do you still appreciate those mindset messages, even though you feel like you know it already, you've read all the books and you might be like 4 or 5 years in and you think I should know all this mindset stuff already. And I was like, why am I asking this question? I've just downloaded this app. I know people need these reminders, even though I was simultaneously listening to the How to Be a Badass, the universe has got your back. Like it's like going to the gym. I know people have said it before, but like the mind gym, you have to keep going to the gym in order for it to carry on showing results. Like, not like you read a book once 3 years ago. And
it's not like you brush your teeth. That's always the thing I think of. It's like you don't just brush your teeth once and then you're like, oh, my teeth are clean. It's like every day. So You Are a Badass, Jen Sincero, my favorite book. I know I've recommended it before. Gabrielle Bernstein, Universe Has Got Your Back. Yes. Yeah.
It's so short as well. Like I think when you listen to it on Audible, I always speed it up and I bash that out in like an afternoon by the pool in Mexico on holiday. Like, right, soak it all in. Come on, give it to me.
We could talk about mindset forever, and sometimes we do, to be fair.
It's a good base layer.
It's a good base layer, yeah. And I think that probably worth saying as well is if you listen to this podcast and you're still like, no, I still don't feel like I can show up online. Think about your mindset. Go listen to You Are a Badass.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's go through then your 3 top tips for being visible online.
Yeah, the first one is definitely to post more regularly. I went to this really great webinar years ago, which I bang on about all the time. It was with the Design Trust, and she said how to break down your time to have a successful business. And it was 40% marketing, 40% making, 10% admin, and 10% like future development and research.
Yeah.
And I was like, 40% marketing? That was like my first reaction. So what the hell am I going to do for 40% of the time? And it's very much around definitely content marketing, I would say, is a really great place to start because it is free to do to an extent. You might have to pay for a Canva membership or Adobe Express, but it's possible to do it. And then if we were to brainstorm some ideas around how you could spend that 40% of your time, you could be asking people to sign up to your newsletter. You could be writing your newsletter. You could be updating your product descriptions. You could be rephotographing your product for new content. You could be making checklists to share on Instagram, carousels, how-tos, reels, Instagram live collabs, pitching to podcasts, loads of stuff, basically, like blogging, Pinterest. But then you think, okay, well, now I feel really overwhelmed because I've got loads of opportunities to do. What I think is what content do I enjoy consuming myself? Because it's probably the easiest kind of content that you can create. So blogging doesn't actually come naturally to me, which is probably why I didn't reel it off earlier. I find it much easier to speak than I do to write. So when I said earlier, I was doing podcast interviews 3 weeks after I left my job because I can chat for days. Put me in front of a keyboard, I've become a bit frozen. So I've really focused on that. And I like listening to podcasts as well. So I think if you're going to attract a like-minded audience and the aim is to sell to people who believe what you believe, they're probably going to be a similar personality type maybe to you. So focus on the areas you enjoy. If you don't enjoy personally using TikTok, but you're listening to hours of things about why you need to be on TikTok, you're probably not going to stay consistent at it because you don't enjoy that platform.
Yeah.
It's like, when you pick your GCSEs when you're younger and you want to do art and textiles, but your dad says to do physics, and you're like, oh, I should probably do physics because so-and-so said so. But if you don't enjoy physics, you're not going to get a good grade in it because you're doing it because you think somebody has told you to, or because you should be doing it.
Yeah.
If you actually went with art and textiles, you'd probably smash it to bits. You get A stars in all of it because you love doing it.
Yeah.
The same when you're trying to pick your content platforms, is just do what you love, and it'll be so much easier to stay consistent because you'll be enjoying it.
I think that's so interesting and such great advice to really think about what suits your personality as well, because consistency is key. And I was listening to a podcast recently, and what I thought was very interesting, this person was really advocating focusing and saying, okay, don't try and do everything, which I'm probably terrible at taking my own advice on this because I have a podcast and I'm on all kinds of different platforms. But in all honesty, though, I do focus my attention mostly, I'd say, on podcasts and mostly on Instagram. But what they were saying was that you will get tempted to do other things and you will get kind of pulled in other directions, or you will get told that the best place for you to be is LinkedIn, or possibly not as a product business, but then somebody say, oh, Twitter's actually really hot right now and some people have had amazing success. And the person said, which I thought was so interesting, if you are the kind of person who tends to get really distracted or feel like you really should do something else, they said you have to accept that you may have had some results from those other platforms. You just have to say, okay, I accept that I could have had some sales from that platform, but I also had to let go of it because the act of chasing all of these different things that maybe you're not the best at, that you have to put a lot of time and effort into improving, and you're not really that keen on, is more detrimental than the impact of the sales, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's like getting FOMO, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, when you see people going to all these parties, you can't go to every party because you'd get burnt out. It's the same. Like, just be exhausted on the sofa on Sunday night. If you went to every single party that had a guest list open, you've just got to pick the ones that you would really enjoy going to.
So post regularly, which means figuring out what you love enough to do regularly.
Exactly. Yeah, because consistency doesn't mean every day. Regularly doesn't mean every day. It's whatever you think you can do consistently. So when I started my podcast, I actually started it fortnightly because I knew I would consistently be able to do it fortnightly. And then maybe after like 6 months, I did it weekly. I think it was actually when the pandemic hit that I did it weekly because I thought people might be bored. And then I just kind of carried it on. So I didn't start off weekly because I knew I wouldn't be able to consistently do it weekly. And I think really notice, it's probably like you told me a phrase before that said you overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can do in a year. And so whatever you think you can do consistently, I would probably halve it. And that's what you would be able to do consistently, and just get good at doing that. And then like layer more on top when you get really confident in that feeling of doing it regularly.
I think it was a real light bulb moment for me when you said that about create the kind of content you like to consume, because it's so true. It's like, if I love things that are funny and, a little off the wall, and then everything I do is like deadly serious, it's like a bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, in the content that you love seeing is probably going to feel the most uncomfortable. So I always think back to when you started and your pictures were quite formal. And then the most recent pictures you've had done, you're in your dungarees, you're in your kitchen, you're cooking, you're doing your yoga, you've done reels with like Sylvanian families, you've wrapped yourself in Christmas lights. That would definitely have not felt comfortable initially, but that is content that you like consuming. So
yes.
you've had to like move out of your comfort zone to create the content that you love.
Yeah.
But it's been your best performing content.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah.
So yeah, you're
we should
good.
break out the Christmas lights again.
Yes, it's nearly time. You need like a Sylvanian family's Christmas party. That would be so cute.
Oh yeah, that would be so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're a really good example of somebody that started creating the content that you enjoy and seeing good results from it.
Well, thank you. I think that's when you put it like that, that is probably fair to say. And it's also partly, I think, part of gradually getting used to what your audience wants to see as well. And for me, going from that super formal corporate environment to the entrepreneurship and the fact that people don't, people are used to seeing different types of content. I think also the way you immerse yourself in the content that your ideal customer wants, you kind of learn about what they're used to seeing so that what you're creating doesn't feel so out of sync.
Yes, I agree.
So that's point number one, post regularly. What's tip number two?
It's just to zoom out a bit. And so what I tend to see people doing is only showing up when they're trying to sell something. And that isn't actually what Instagram, say, is for, or TikTok, if we're going to use those as an example. Email newsletters, yes, like that's definitely further down the funnel, I would say, to be more salesy. But if you're only showing up when you're asking people to buy something, you could just come across as like a bit sleazy. And I think that's where the sleazy sales part comes from, is people then think, well, when I post about my products, nobody's interested. And it's like, well, why should they follow you? Like if I just want to see everything that you're selling, I'll go and have a look on your website. Why should I follow you? That's like a massive difference. And people don't follow people willy-nilly now. They follow people for a reason. And so you have to create something that is of that follow value. And it's like by creating valuable content. So valuable content and helpful content aren't actually the same thing. I think people think, oh, I've got to help people. And from a product perspective, that's actually quite hard, because service is easy, because we're always trying to help people. But product is like, well, how do I create valuable content that's not always really helpful? And it can be funny content, things that have gone wrong when you're trying to build your business. It can be memes and showing your personality, and whether it is voiceovers, if you want to do those, in sync videos, which you definitely don't have to do, but like entertainment is probably one area of your content that doesn't need to be helpful, but can be still really valuable. I know loads of people follow me who have no intention of starting a fashion or textiles brand. They just like following me because I'll make them laugh or I'll brighten their day, which is lovely. So those people are still really valuable because they might have friends that want to start a fashion brand, and then they'll tell their friends. So that's one area. The other area is like, if selling is Z in the alphabet, what's like all the letters that have got you to that point? So talking about the process to get there, then I know I've spoken about it before. I need to like name it something to be like the who, what, where, why, when, how method.
Yeah.
So writing all those questions down and think, okay, well, if I'm selling this t-shirt, who made it? Where did it come from? Why did it get created in the first place? Like, how is it going to be available? And so all of those things can be all different posts. I remember you did a poll recently on stories that said, how many of you just post once about your product and expect someone to buy it? And it was like 92% of people said, yes, I have done that. And it really stuck in my mind. And I was like, no, like stretch it out. Your content, I always say, is like an elastic band. Like keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, because it goes a lot further than it first looks. So yeah, definitely not just posting the final thing. That's where perfection comes in a little bit. Like, surely no one is interested in that. Like, what happened before this beautiful picture? Yes, they are interested.
Yeah, they are. People are so nosy. Why do you think factory tours are so
like behind the scenes at Cadbury's on Channel 4 primetime TV, 9 p.m. Why are they putting it out on that huge platform? It's because people want to know what happens behind the scenes.
People want to know. People want to know They want to see Ben and Jerry's being made. You know, they want to see how they pick things and put things in, and it's endlessly fascinating.
I watched a whole hour program once. I think it was with Inside the Factory with Greg Wallace about baked beans. And honestly, it was fascinating. There's no heating in that baked beans factory because they cook them all and put them in tins hot. And so the whole factory is hot because of the baked beans. Like the baked beans heat the factory. Like, I mean, come on. It was so interesting. And they told you like why there's ridges in the tins so that they're not completely round. Like, I won't spoil it for you, but go and watch it.
Oh my goodness, that sounds fascinating. I also want to watch behind the scenes at Cadbury's. I've not seen that.
Yes, yeah, that was a good one. Or just go to the Cadbury World.
Yeah, actually, I do want to go to Cadbury's World. So yeah, it's just endless content opportunities.
I think there is some really good people to follow as well. If you're looking at people who are only maybe like a year or two ahead of you, don't be following the Gucci's and the Pradas of this world for content ideas. Like follow them for inspo maybe, but try and look at people who are, if you're a one-person band, look for someone else who seems to be doing well in that category. And there's two ways to kind of come up with content ideas. One is actually to research and look at what people are doing. And it's like, oh, okay, she has shown a lineup of all her sketches and images of the fabric. Maybe I could show it, but obviously in my own way, my own sketches, my own fabrics. It's a different piece of content, but you're taking from that like an idea. Or you just delete it altogether, go and sit in a park and think. And I know both of those things work. It just depends where you're at. Like if you're completely overwhelmed, you're in a comparison hole, your imposter syndrome is off the charts, then maybe the research one isn't right for you in that moment. Go and sit in a park and like turn your phone off, take a piece of paper with you and just start writing. And even if nothing comes, just write down completely shit ideas as well. Like, because it's kind of like taking the rubbish out, like just keep writing them and then the good stuff will come. It is a flow that you have to get into, you know, it's like running. The first bit's so hard, your face is bright red, you can't breathe, and you think, how am I going to do this? Like the first bit's the worst bit. It's the same with anything, and then you get into a bit of a rhythm with it, and they'll I promise you they will come if you stick at it. But yeah, if you're just like your mindset is actually all right and you're just a bit dry of ideas, then maybe go down the research road.
Yeah, I always think as well, one of the things that I do whenever I get stuck or I think what should I post next, I look at what questions I've been asked. Because we do these Ask Me Anything sessions in the club, then I've always got a lot of material that people have asked me questions about, because ultimately sometimes I feel like, I don't know about you, but sometimes like I'll watch lots of different things about content creation, and then I'll get like, right, then you've got to have this type and that type and this type, and then sometimes I'm almost like got so many different things that I'm trying to layer over what I'm trying to do, then I just get stuck. So I'm like, well, how can I do it so I've got this and this? And then I just, like you say, bring it back to, why would someone follow me? Somebody said this to me way back in the early days, in the nicest possible way. Nobody cares about you and your business. They care about themselves, which is the way that humans work. And so I always bring it back to, right, nobody cares about me in the nicest possible way. It's not going to make me cry in a corner. So therefore, what do they need? What do they need to know? And I think that whenever I do that and bring it back, it's always the stuff that people respond to, because it's probably easier for services, I'd say, from that perspective. For product businesses, for sure, if you always get asked a question on your, you know, somebody always emails you and says, oh, what is your dispatch time again? Do content about what your dispatch time is.
Yeah, I see people get really frustrated with that section of their business and think, oh, why don't you know? It's on my website. Like, go and read it. That is not the response. Even if you don't show it, like, don't even feel that. The response to that should be, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to create another piece of content again. If you really do get it all the time, pin it to the top. And that's like a new feature that, you know, completely copied off TikTok, whatever. Just pop it to the top. If you know people get it asked, or create a highlight, and then you can keep directing people there. Or yeah, like make a new piece of content around it. Just say it again.
Say it again.
What's that song? Say it again. Think about that.
I'm going to think about it. That's my problem. I always start singing. It really drives my family crazy. Like whenever I hear a phrase that's in a song, I start singing the song. So point number 3 then.
It's kind of split into 2. The first bit I would say is to make sure you keep selling through the silence. There are so many people that are watching you that are interested in what it is that you're doing, but they just haven't told you because they have no obligation to tell you that they are going to buy something. They might have screenshot it. They might have forwarded it to one of their friends. They might have just been sat in a cafe and said, I love this. Like, look at my phone. I'm going to buy this when I get paid. You don't see any of that. They might not like your picture. They might not comment on it. They might not save it. But all of those actions are still like buying signals that you're not aware of. So please make sure that you sell through the silence. Even if you're not seeing any results, that doesn't mean people aren't going to buy. Like, how many times have you just been driving somewhere and your phone pings and you don't recognize the name of whoever the customer is, and you're like, wow, like, where have they come from?
Yeah.
Because they have been watching. And I mean, just from a really practical point of view, I would definitely add onto your checkout, where did you find me? So that you know where to focus your efforts. Don't make it obligatory because it might put somebody off from actually purchasing, but you can make it like an optional box so you know where to focus your attention. And then actually tell people it is for sale. There is so many people I see that look like they're just a lovely blog, they're an inspiration page, they look like an influencer. It's not clear that their business is a business. So having a call to action in your bio, having a call to action on every single post that you would do may sound excessive, but it's not really. If you just, on the nurturing style posts or the entertaining ones, say, you can just say, double tap if you agree. How about you? What do you think? They're all call to actions. And what I want you to do is like get people into practice doing something for you that you have told them to do. And so if you say double tap to, if you agree, comment below your favorite, head to the link in my bio, it's like a really smooth transition. They're like used to working with you or engaging with you. And like, then when they engage with your checkout, I guess, they're used to working with you. Do you know what I mean? It's not like silence, 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 me, my products, go and buy. It's like, why should I? I don't know, it kind of feels like it gets my back up a bit when you're only asking me to do something when you want me to buy from you. Like, are you not interested in me? Are you not interested in my thoughts? Like, do you actually even know if I like that? You know, if you're not getting very good engagement at the moment, actually question, are you asking for it? Are you giving people anything to engage with?
Yeah.
The answer is probably no.
Make sure it's a really simple ask as well. Like if you say, tell me, I'm not that you would, I'm sure if you're selling products, but like, tell me about the most traumatic day of your life.
Yeah.
People aren't going to be like, well, I'm not going to type all of that out. But if you put like, drop a sunshine emoji if you love it. Okay, sunshine emoji, or, you know, double tap. That's so easy.
And it's like, not like double tap and drop an emoji.
Right.
One thing all the time.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. I was thinking recently about, well, we were just talking about them before we started recording, about Lazy Disco and Mood Good, or now should I say Good Days Jewellery, who recently did a collaboration, and they had a very cute little sunshine necklace, which I'm not wearing today, but I have been wearing almost every day on my holiday. And I knew I wanted to buy it, and because it's just very cute. And then I think I even messaged Rosie from Good Days, and I was saying, you know, I want to buy it, but like, you can please, I'm enjoying the content, like show me videos of it, it's almost like
sell it to me,
you know. But even though I bought it, I still was like, you know, I could watch another video. I think it's important to remember that sometimes it's nice to be sold to. Well, often it is. If it's something that you love and you're excited that you've treated yourself to it, then seeing videos showing it to you and styling it, or showing it with other things, or showing you the back of it, or just, I don't know, just sort of dwelling on it, it's actually really, really nice and can feel great. And I was thinking about our day. So Elizabeth and I went to Spirit of Summer a couple of months ago, and it was really fascinating because there were lots of people selling to us in lots of different ways.
In the space of about 6 minutes, we had two very wildly different experiences.
Exactly. Some of them were over the top and overly pressurized, and some of them were just really, really fun.
Guess which ones we bought from?
Yeah, and they were the ones I bought from, and I bought a pair of garden secateurs, which I was just used yesterday, actually, the first time.
So you bought in French as well?
I bought in French. The guy was French, and then I wheeled out my slightly rusty French, and we had a chat, and it was really funny.
I went over to her and I said, "Oh, what was that?" And she went, "I have no idea what happened, but I've got a pair of garden scissors."
But they're great. They're actually really good product. It was a fun time.
It was fun.
We laughed a lot. So I think, it's don't always feel like it has to be so serious and feel like you're doing something terrible by showing people your products. Like, if you've got lovely products, it's delightful to be sold to them.
I mean, I actually do a whole course on this. It's like 4 weeks it's called the Sales Project, and the whole first week is around like, let's talk about really incredible sales experiences, really bad ones. What can we learn from it? What do we want to implement within our businesses? Because the good ones we probably don't remember, but as sales memories, but they really are. And we just make that assumption that all sales are bad because, we think of the bitch in Pretty Woman that was mean to our Julia and
actually, used car salesman.
Yeah, there is loads of really good salespeople out there that you just don't even consider as salespeople because you might like them, or they're just so good at it. So it's like I transform you into a bit of like a sales machine to be good at it.
Amazing. So let's just wrap up then by talking a little bit about 2022. So we talked about some of these things, about posting regularly, about asking for the sale, about zooming out, looking at the big picture. 2022 for a lot of people has been a really tough year. Do you think there are different skills needed for this year? Like, what's your view about how this year's been?
Yeah, I think this really gets my back up when people are talking about the algorithm at the moment, because it isn't the same as what it was. It's no worse and it's no better. It's different. And the people who are not doing so well are trying to force the same content into this new algorithm, in my opinion. And I think if I look at my content, or like, a lot of my clients' content, they're all, some of them are saying, I'm not really noticing that much difference. It's because they're being adaptable. And yes, some posts do much better and some posts do much worse. But overall, I would say that if I were to level it out, the engagement is maybe about the same as what it was. It's just that some things are doing wildly better and some things are doing wildly worse. And when I look at what's doing worse, it tends to be the rubbish, like the crap stuff that I've not put that much effort into. And what I think the algorithm has done is force you into creating better content. And I know that's why I messaged all my past clients and said, right, what is it that you want to see from me? You do that. You go and speak to your customers. Like, I listened to a podcast with the guy that started All About Brown, the swimwear brand. And he said that's a multi-million-pound company and he still phones his customers on a weekly basis, not like the same person, obviously. He'll speak to a different customer every week and find out what they're doing, where they're going on holiday, whatever questions is on his mind, he will ask them, and therefore create a better product and create a better business because of it. Don't just sit at home wondering what to post. Ask people, and I don't mean whack a question box up saying, what do you want to see from me? Because that is so lazy. And nobody's got the time to like create your content plan for you. I mean, like, show an interest in people and actually ask them how they're feeling and what it is that they want or need at the moment. 2022 has almost like sifted out the crap, I would say. Like, you can't post crap anymore. You have to make it good. And is that such a bad thing? Like, no, maybe not. It's like, I did this video years ago that was like, is it so sad that Arcadia is gone? Because everyone was moaning about it by the end. Maybe it's not so sad. It kind of just makes way for better brands on the high street. It might take some time, and there's going to be definitely like a gap in the middle where there is plenty of retail units empty at the moment, but I do believe that better ones will come who are more adaptable to change and like understand the market that they're selling in. And you said before, didn't you, like retail's not dead, boring retail's dead. And so it's the same kind of content. Like Instagram's not dead, boring
content's dead.
Content is, yeah. And it's like the end of being able to just kind of post anything and get by. But if it's like this free platform that you have been given to speak to like thousands of people every single day, then maybe we do have to try a bit harder, and that's fine. Like, get on with it. Bit brutal, but it's true. If you're going to work with me, I'll tell you straight. I think the other thing is that, yes, e-com sales have been down for some people, but there is this sort of retail renaissance that's happening at the moment where like footfall in store is actually quite hugely on the up because people want to get out and they want to be more social. So I know this is very much about online, but okay, how can I show people the smell, the taste, the touch, the feel? And it's obviously like through video, and video is like the next best thing to shopping in person, or have a look at what opportunities there are for pop-ups and in-person events and markets and networking if we're seeing that move. They said this article that I read, it's not going to be forever. It's not going to like carry on progressively scaling up with this retail renaissance. It is predicted to be like a short-term thing, and then people will come back online for ease. But yeah, see what you can learn from what's happening.
No, I think that's an excellent point. And I also think that it's very easy to tell yourself these things. It's easy to say, oh, e-commerce sales are down or X, Y, Z. But I think that it's important to not put too much emphasis on things that you can't control and make sure you're focusing on doing the very best that you can do as well.
Yeah, and please, for the love of God, don't tell people that your sales are down. People want what other people want. And so if, one, you're telling people that nobody wants it, that's only like a one-way road to more people not wanting it. And it's not to say about like faking it or wrapping up orders that aren't real. It's just about getting back in touch with like why you love the product and really telling the story of that product again from scratch. Getting excited, I think, is the best way, which I know is difficult when sales are down, but it kind of goes back to that selling through the silence thing, is persevere with it. And I promise you it will pay off. Like, hard work never goes to waste, I think.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. As always, we could keep going forever on this topic. And so I'd just like to invite you to tell people where they can find out more about you.
Thank you. I am at Elizabeth Stiles UK on Instagram. Come follow me there.
Thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'd love to know, what did you take away from this episode? Why not come on over to @Resilient Retail Club and drop me a note. Let me know what you're going to do differently in terms of showing up online after listening. And of course, if you have got iTunes, you can rate and review the podcast. It helps me so much when you do that, and I appreciate it enormously. And if you are on Spotify, then you can rate the podcast inside the app. And of course, if you follow or subscribe, you'll be the first to know about each new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.